Hello again, everyone, all my mindfulness friends out there. It's good to be back. My name is Busshō Lahn, and we're doing mindfulness again together today. This is the Mindfulness in Daily Life series, and this is our second episode. I want to thank the American Center Moscow, as I like to at the top of each one of these sessions we have together, just to acknowledge my gratitude for the opportunity to talk with all of you about a practice that is very dear to me, very near and dear to me. So I'm coming to you from Minnesota in the north central part of the United States. And this month's topic is exploring nourishment. Each one of our 4 months together in the Mindfulness in Daily Life series will have a different topic. And so this month we're going to play with the idea of nourishment a little bit. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but we'll start by explaining very generally what mindfulness is for those of you who might be brand new to our offering here this week. And then we'll do a short exercise. So if that means you want to maybe think about what you'd like to be sitting in, if you want to move to a more comfortable chair or sit on a bench or cushion or something that might help you during this exercise, we'll be doing that in just a few minutes. At a really high level, the word mindfulness is probably one we're all familiar with now. It's a pretty mainstream word, I think it's safe to say. And what we're talking about there is a universal human capacity, something we all have, and that's the capacity to be present to our experience in a way that doesn't involve our usual sorting of preference. I like it and I don't like it, and I want more of it and I want less of it, and I label it and I organize it and I judge it and I arrange it. Right? That's normally how we pay attention to our life. We're usually filtering, which is good. Right? Filtering is important. It's part of how humans perceive the world, right? Things that can be helpful to them and things that aren't, things that might be a threat, things that might be positive, things that might give us pleasure, things that might be a danger, that kind of stuff, right? But we also have the capacity, as I say, to simply notice. Right? Our capacity to just bear witness, to just be with an experience without using that sorting function, that judging function, that kind of critical function that's attaching value and preference to our experience. So mindfulness is something we all do have the capability of doing, but it's also something that we can get better at. It's like a muscle we can exercise. Right? We can get better at doing it with practice, just like everything else. And so some of us have a mindfulness practice. We spend time, perhaps every day, doing mindfulness exercises, meditation, body scans, being with the experience of breathing, something like that. As all of you, I'm sure, know, there are many, many, many books that have been written about mindfulness, specific mindfulness goals. There are websites, there are many videos, all sorts of stuff that we can do in the very, very large pasture called mindfulness that we can play with. So what we're not talking about today, and I hope that you hear this as a relief, is we're not really talking about self-improvement. We're not really needing to fix. We're not really even needing to change anything. We're actually just practicing noticing. Just noticing, just being with. Right? And so I know what I'm saying is simple. It's simple, But I also recognize that what we're talking about here isn't necessarily easy for us, right? Because we do spend so much of our time um, doing something as a means to another end, right? Or using that function we talked about, organizing and grabbing and pushing and value and no value and more of and less of and high priority, low priority. This is how we've been taught, and it's a useful function for us. But putting it down and just being with something for the sake of experiencing it isn't necessarily something that we have a lot of practice doing. It's the most natural thing in the world. But it's just important to let all of us be reminded, hey, this is something that I can get better at doing as I go, as I practice. And if I find it a little challenging, I'm in good company. Right? All of us experience this as simple, but quite challenging, especially at the beginning. Right? So I hope that's a relief for you to know. We're not needing to change anything. We're not needing to fix anything. We're not needing to self-improve. We're just practicing being with something. Wow. That's pretty cool. So let's start today, before we switch gears and talk about nourishment. Let's just start by settling ourselves. We can be a little more connected to our experience. We'll spend just a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes here. But if you are able, if you can find yourself a nice seat, a nice place to be, you might want to take your shoes off or light a candle or something that helps you kind of transition and make the body a little more accessible and friendly place to be for the next few minutes. I encourage you to do that. I know for those of you who are on the road today or listening to the recording as you're on your run or something like that, that's not possible. But for those of us who can devote a little time to this, please grab your cup of tea, find your seat, adjust your posture, something that feels good to you, something that feels comfortable, and something that allows you to be upright. And then join along with me. We'll spend just a few minutes doing this. Let's start by paying attention in a very gentle, curious sort of sense to how we've chosen to balance our bones, how we've chosen the shape that our body is making. Our body is always making a shape, but rarely does it make a shape that we were intentional in creating. We tend to kind of occupy our bodies carelessly. We tend to occupy our bodies a little mindlessly, right? We're usually thinking about something else. Our attention is usually elsewhere. So to start with, just kind of notice how you've chosen to balance, what seat you're in, what parts of your body are being supported. You can adjust at any time the shape your hands are making, how they're resting in your lap or on your thighs, or where the breath moves in your body. You can make choices and little adjustments as we go. Well, let's start by noticing the parts of us that we can feel the stillness of the earth through the soles of our feet, the parts of you that might be touching your chair. Could be the legs, your seat, maybe your back. Maybe your arms are resting on the arms of your chair. Maybe your calves or your feet are resting on the earth, the floor. What we're being curious about to start with today is the parts of us that can feel the stillness of the earth. It's just nice to feel how stable, how sturdy, how faithful, how solid. I remind myself of this part of my experience several times each day. Oh, there's the earth. I can feel it holding me up, nice and solid. It helps me feel safe. It helps me locate myself, especially if I'm feeling kind of scattered or if I'm feeling a little tentative or scared. Just reminding myself of the parts of me that are experiencing the stable earth gives a safe place for those anxious feelings to go. I'm also comforted by knowing that that part of my experience is never absent. There's always part of my body that's touching the earth. Always part of me that's touching the earth. So this is something that's challenging to be present to because it's never absent, but also very rewarding then to be present to because I know it's always there. It feels good to me. And then the second thing I'm going to invite all of us to pull into our conscious awareness today is the sensation of the breath. You can breathe however you wish. You don't need to do any special technique if you don't want. But just like your posture, you can be curious about where you are feeling your breathing right now, most easily in your body. Just connect with it. Some of us notice our breath most easily in the rise of the belly, right? The diaphragm, if our breath is going that deeply down into our body. The belly can expand on the in-breath, and we can feel that. And contract back toward the spine on the out-breath, and we can feel that. That's a very deep kind of breath. That has a relaxing effect. Maybe for you today, the breath might be most easily noticed or experienced at the level of the chest and the shoulders. Maybe the lungs filling and the shoulders rising, and then settling back on the out-breath is where you can feel it. Or perhaps for you, Today it's most easily experienced at the nostrils, just noticing the cool temperature of the air coming in at the nose. And it shifts to warm, transitions to that soft warmth on the way out. We can feel that temperature and texture out the nose. Maybe that's easiest for you. We'll sit for just one more minute together. And just to sort of stretch us today, just to sort of give yourself a bit of a game to play. See if you can hold both of those awarenesses at the same time. The awareness of the stillness of the earth that you can feel, right, through the parts of you that are touching the earth or your chair. And also see if you can notice the constant flowing movement of the sensations of breath. Just for a minute, let's see if we can hold them both. All right. Well, that feels just lovely, and I thank you for for doing that, for starting off that way with me today. It's nice, isn't it? It doesn't actually take much. It doesn't actually take much shift of attention, does it, to really alter our experience of being alive? It's amazing, isn't it? It really doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much. And with practice, the more of this kind of stuff we do, um, the quicker we notice that change. That's really true. We can pull our attention in the way you've just done simply by connecting to what already is. And when that's a practiced movement, when that's a very practiced kind of attention, where you just drop the labeling and drop the judgment and drop the story. We're not thinking about before, we're not thinking about after. You're not caught up in ideas about the past or the future. You're just noticing how you chose to sit, what parts you were touching the earth, the temperature of the air, the movement of the deeper breaths, the shallower breaths. We notice the little tensions that show up in our jaw and our shoulders start to move, relax. Only a couple of minutes, we can notice a pretty profound shift. Right? And it's important. The reason that's important, and this is going to help us segue to our topic this month. The reason that's important is it kind of helps us hit reset. Right? For just a few minutes to kind of hit reset, it can be a real relief. And one of the first things that we see, and I know a lot of you who are already mindfulness practitioners know this, but for some of us, this is kind of a big discovery, is we start to see, maybe you're seeing it now, how much of our usual activity is spent, and our usual experience of our activity is spent with a narrative and a commentary track that has a momentum. It has a habit, energy to it. There's kind of a, and then I have to, and then I have to, and then right? Again, this isn't a bad thing. This is just how many of us live our lives. There's kind of an autopilot, right? The autopilot, which is there to keep us safe, is mostly about reviewing things that have happened, what worked and what didn't, so I can either repeat or not repeat those things. You can see how that's about safety, right? And then guessing what's about to happen, projecting that into the future, right? Anticipation. And so you can kind of feel these have emotional qualities to them. And a lot of people, when they start doing mindfulness practice, become aware, oh, I'm always in the past, I'm always in the future. Oh, I'm always in the past, I'm always in the future. Yeah, that's true for all human beings. We don't need to judge that as being bad, but it is a good thing to notice, oh, I'm usually in the past and the future. And then I start to become very curious, and I hope encouraged by learning, I can get a lot better. I can really strengthen. I can enforce. I can nourish my capacity to be present in the moment without so much of that filtering. So you heard me use the word nourish, which is our topic this month. We're very loosely here at Mindfulness in Daily Life trying to kind of explore some of the topics that the Mindfulness Club is exploring too. So there's a little bit of a coherency. And they may be talking about this in a different way than we are today, but that's okay. Nourishment is a very broad topic. And already what we have done by simply being curious about and connecting to our posture and our breathing, the stillness of the earth and the dynamism of the breath, is we're kind of asking ourselves a question. Is there a way that this normal human function we call existing in a body, being pulled by gravity and breathing, can I experience those as nourishing? What does nourishing mean? Can I experience those as nourishing? Right? So let's talk about nourishment. Nourishment, in a very broad sense, is anything that's conducive to health, right? Health, growth, expansion. I'm just thinking of the spring. It's the spring where I live. It's the fall where some of you live. But in the spring, things start to grow that have been latent or have been asleep, basically, right? For many months. They start to respond to the warmth of the sun. The soil starts to heat up and those seeds go, all right, I'm supposed to become an apple tree or however it is that seeds think, right? And you think, oh, yes, well, we need to nourish that seed. It's going to need warmth. It's going to need water, right? It's going to need sunlight. We understand what makes seeds grow. And we go, yeah, we need to nourish that. It's going to need rich soil and it's going to need sunlight and it's going to need water. That's conducive to that seed growing. It's conducive to that becoming a healthy plant. It's conducive to that thing expanding and becoming bigger, stronger, rooted, right? You can go, oh, yeah, we all understand. That's what nourishment means. So, in the broad sense, we start to pay attention as mindfulness practitioners to how things feel in a very deep sense. How things feel in a very deep sense. And what I mean by that is when we're cold and we go for a walk, it's, as I said, it's about to become spring here. It is spring here, but I'm looking out my window and the winter is reluctant. The winter is reluctant to leave. Spring is happening, but I can still see some snow, and it's that weather where that's sometimes really warm and sometimes really chilly. This time of year when we go out for a walk and we feel the warmth of the sun on our face, that can happen any season, but in the spring we notice it, especially the warmth of the sun on our face. It's fair for me to say, I feel nourished by that. I can feel there's part of my body that kind of leaps to meet it. Like, oh, yes, the sun. So I'm describing pleasure. It feels good. But I'm also describing something deeper than that. And that's what I want to really be clear about today. Nourishment and pleasure overlap, but they're not exactly the same thing. And I know we know that because there's a lot of stuff that feels really good that we know is not good for us. And also, we know there's a lot of stuff that's really good for us that we don't like to do, right? Going to the gym and eating kale salad and doing our push-ups and all that kind of stuff. You go, "Ah, rah, rah, rah." But we can feel that we're nourished by it. So nourishment is a much deeper, something deeper about our humanity, something that really is conducive to health and to growth and to expansion. It's conducive to being a more vibrant form of life. And so the overlap that I see between mindfulness practice and nourishment is we begin to trust the vehicle. I'm pointing to my body and I'm including my heart. We begin to trust the vehicle of knowing, again, my body and my heart, by being connected to it. I'm much more connected to my body and the messages it is already giving me. I'm much more connected to my heart and the messages it's already giving me. And with practice, I become much more sensitive to those messages. What is my body telling me it needs? What is my heart telling me it needs? Right? I'm much more receptive to those messages, and I become, as I get still and as I get quiet and as I get better at kind of trusting the wisdom of this knowing of this body, I'm starting to trust its ability. I'm starting to rely on the truth that it's telling me. I hope that makes sense to folks. I'm emphasizing body here and I'm emphasizing heart here because I know most of us tend to live up here in our heads. And that's lovely too, right? Mindfulness isn't an anti-intellectual exercise. But I also know that I can get a little disconnected from that body that's telling me really important things. And I can get disconnected from that heart that's telling me really important things. And I can actually override the wisdom of the body, and I can override the wisdom of the heart if I'm not connected to them. So what I am nourished by becomes apparent to me when I pay attention to my experience. All right, I'll say it again because that's important. What I am nourished by becomes very clear to me. It just becomes apparent to me as I slow down and as I pay attention. I actually think mindfulness is a brilliant conduit to begin to explore in your life the relationships, the connections, the activities, the foods, the exercises, the TV programs, the books, the magazines, the video games that are actually nourishing and the ones that are not. I absolutely trust, as all meditation and mindfulness teachers do, I absolutely trust your body and your heart are giving you messages all of the time. Ooh, that felt good. I like that. In a deep sense. Again, more than just pleasure. This is, ooh, I liked that. I can feel that I am being encouraged to grow here. That conversation made my roots go a little deeper into the earth. Oh, that program made my branches stretch and grow just a little bit. Right? That meal, I could feel the part of me that was nourished by it. And again, conversely, we start to get a little more aware, sensitive to stuff that was sort of okay, maybe in the moment, but boy, afterwards, I don't really know. That conversation, I felt scared after that conversation, or actually a little ashamed, or a little confused, or I don't know. I had nightmares after I watched that movie, or boy, it tasted good while I was eating it, but I didn't like how it made me feel. You understand what I'm saying to you? So, as you might expect me to say, and as your intuition is already telling you, If I want to be more mindful of the things in my life that are genuinely nourishing, I'm probably going to have to slow down a little bit at least and pay closer attention at least a little bit. You probably already know the medicine here, which is pay attention a little more carefully and maybe slow down a little bit more. And this could be, eating is an obvious example of this. Mindful eating is pretty famous, right? There's mindfulness exercises all over the place that involve eating very, very slowly, right? You can do an internet search for the tangerine mindfulness exercise. The tangerine, eating the orange or the tangerine, or the raisin, eating the raisin mindfulness exercise, or the apple. I have one right here in front of me. This is my visual aid. And it's a beautiful exercise. And it's kind of exactly as you'd expect it. We're not doing this today because we don't have the time. But you can imagine I can eat this apple in 3 minutes as I'm watching TV and as I'm, taking a break at work and it's in the middle of my day and I'm going to wolf this thing down while I'm watching a video and I'll throw the core in the trash and I go on with my day. Yeah, my body is getting the vitamins. My body is getting the fiber. My body is getting the minerals. I've made a wise choice. I've eaten something that I know is good for me. Okay, good. On one level, I'm being nourished by that. My body got the good food. Okay. Can you also, though, by just using your imagination, what would happen in your experience if instead of taking 3 minutes to eat the apple while you watched something else or while you had another conversation, what would happen if eating the apple was the only thing that you did? And if it didn't take 3 minutes? What if it took 15 minutes? And what if every piece of you, all of you, your heart, your body, your breath, your mind, everything about you was focused entirely, devoted entirely to just eating the apple, nothing else? You can already feel it, right? You can probably feel the part of you that's reluctant to want to do that, the fear of being bored, right? The fear of being restless. Oh, the resistance that we all feel to not being distracted or entertained. You can feel that, I'm guessing. We all have that. That's why mindfulness is challenging. But I bet you can also feel the other part of you would go, I always think an apple is red. And when I spend 30 seconds, even 30 short seconds looking at this beautiful piece of fruit, I see at least 6 or 7 colors. And I notice the weight. This apple has a very particular weight. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit heavier, it's in some way completely unique from every other apple in the world. I start to appreciate it. And if I want to use my imagination, as mindfulness of eating usually does, I know this came from a tree. And I know that tree was watered by the rain. And I know it experienced sun. And I knew it grew in soil. And none of these things are strange to me. I know it feels the pull of gravity. And somebody picked it. Somebody put it into a box. Somebody washed it. It probably had to go into a truck. It went across the country maybe to come to me. I start realizing this thing I'm about to eat, it's about to nourish me, is connected to everything else in the entire universe. That's not a trippy idea just to be trippy. It's literal. That's literal science. There's no getting around that. This is the whole thing. It's connected to everything. There's nothing that isn't connected here. Suddenly, sitting down and eating an apple as part of my lunch has a huge intention to it. This can turn into a spiritual place for some of us, and even if it doesn't, I have an appreciation for the experience of eating an apple that is nourishing more than just my body. my heart starts to open. I have appreciation. I might even have some wonder. I might have some awe. I might have gratitude. I might have connection. Those are deep human needs. Everything I just said, those are deep human needs. That's one of the things that mindfulness practitioners notice most quickly when they really devote themselves to do it. I'm going to sit every day for a month, or I'm going to do mindfulness exercise every day for a month, is they're much more often, usually speaking, kind of arrested almost by a moment of wonder, a moment of appreciation, a moment of gratitude. And it could be something as simple as a bird flying overhead or picking up an apple. Wow. We're talking about eating with respect and eating with presence. There's a ritual to it, right? And then we start to realize, oh, that's more than just eating. That's how I treat my whole body. How many of us, when we wash our face in the morning, brush our teeth in the morning, wash our hands in the morning, do it with tenderness, do it with affection and care? We very rarely touch ourselves with any kind of affection, any kind of love. It's usually pretty businesslike for most of us. I think I can be nourished. Like, I know that my daily ritual, I've got to brush my teeth and I've got to have my tea in the morning and wash my face and wash my hands and have my breakfast. I can do all those things pretty quickly. Yes, of course. All of us can do that pretty quickly. Pretty businesslike, not very present. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do that day. And the good news is the calories go in, the teeth do get clean, the face does get washed. These are healthy rituals. Yes, on that level, I am nourishing my life by caring for the body. But can you imagine? Wow. What if I gave myself the invitation to be present to each of those really simple, everyday, non-special activities in a way that allowed me to be curious about every single one of them? Did I notice the temperature of the water changed while I was washing my hands? Did I notice the smell of the soap while I was washing my hands? Did I notice the shape of the outside of my cheek when I was washing my face? Did I taste the apple? Can you feel that then we're being nourished in a completely different way? There's a whole bunch more going on. We're much more present, right? So how we are nourished, yes, it's food. It's how we care for our bodies. It is what you choose to read. It's what you choose to listen to, right? That playlist, the TV show, what's in your Netflix queue, what's on those things matter. I'm not talking about good or bad. I'm talking about being curious about what I consume. Conversations, friendships, activities, exercise. All of these things are nourishing, but they all have something in them that needs to be paid attention to so that we, each individual one of us, can feel, what did that do for me? How was that for me? Was I nourished by that? Right? All of our bodies are different. All of our hearts are different. A conversation that might be really nourishing for me might not be for you, and vice versa. That's why the connection to this, the beautiful connection that we create and sustain with mindfulness practice, the connection to this beautiful organ of knowing, these organs of knowing, is so important for us to know what's actually nourishing. Yes, there's some basic rules: exercise, diet, friendships, social contact, getting outside, right? Connection with an animal, all that kind of stuff. Yes, of course, of course, of course. We affirm all of that. But if we really want to, from the inside out, understand what it is that I'm really needing and what it is that really nourishes me and what doesn't, I've got to be pretty dialed into my experience. And most of the time I'm not. So this takes some practice. Take some practice. So let's do one more quick exercise and then we'll open it up for questions. Okay, just 5 more minutes. We'll just do another quick sitting. I like to do at least 2, even short exercises each time we have an hour together. So we're just going to do breath again. We're going to keep it simple today. I wish we had time to eat a raisin or a tangerine or experiment a little bit more with some of the other stuff, but I want to play with nourishing in one more way. And this is, we know we have bodily needs. We know we have emotional needs. We know we have, and I want to appeal in this last exercise to kind of the highest parts of us, the parts of us that we experience as curious and expansive and abstract. If the word spiritual is okay for you, you can put the word spiritual in there. If the word spiritual isn't your jam, leave it. But it's the part of us that's the least body bound. It includes the body. It's the least body bound and the most abstract. We need to feed that part. This is where wonder lives. This is where awe lives. This is where gratitude lives. That's the part of you I'm talking about. I think of it as a heart space, but some people think of it as. So please, let's go back to where we started today. If you could just adjust yourself real quick. Take just a second to pull your energies back into your body. Get curious again about how you're sitting and where that earth is, where that breath is. For those of you who are watching, you can see I sometimes close my eyes. Either closed or gently open is just fine. So just sit quietly for just a couple of minutes here. And please do that with earnestness. See if you can do it with all of yourself. See if you can just sit quietly in an undivided way. I'd like you to notice how your inhalation doesn't crash into your exhalation. I just want you to notice that there's no conflict there. We think of inhalation and exhalation as opposites. And we think that opposites oppose one another, and that maybe even they are in conflict. Sometimes that's true. But what I'm inviting you to notice right now for just a couple minutes is that your inhalation and your exhalation are not in conflict. They do not crash into each other. They do not oppose one another. Each one arrives exactly on time. And there's a very brief, almost imperceptible moment, an invisible pivot where inhalation becomes exhalation and exhalation becomes inhalation. We don't have to try. There's no effort happening in this moment, this pivot. It just happens. And an energy that was moving one direction in our body is now moving in the other direction. All we are doing is noticing. So, I think that's as much as we need to do there today. We can please pull our energies back out again, and you can blink your eyes open if you wish. Why did we end with that exercise? Why did we end with that exercise today? We're talking about nourishment. And so we ended with that exercise today because when we start to pay deep attention, which is what mindfulness is, just deeper attention, not judging, evaluating attention, just deep, curious attention, we will start to see, oh, some of my habits, some of my autopilot isn't healthy. There are some things in there that I actually really aspire to change because I can feel them in a different way. It isn't about becoming a better person. This isn't self-improvement, but I can actually feel how I felt when I watched that show or read that book or ate that food or had that conversation. I can feel what that is. I want something different. Just like we can see when we start to explore really deeply, the things we are deeply nourished by, that we've always been nourished by, and that we're so faithful to doing. Wow, right? But all we're talking about is a pivot. Oh, I didn't see that, and now I do. Can you feel that's actually effortless? Oh, I didn't see it, and now I do. The in became the out. The in became the out. Right? I realize that changing habits in our life takes energy and discipline, and I understand that. That is true. I think most of the time that's really true. And then when we start exploring nourishment, we inevitably end up asking questions. What habits do I want to continue that really are nourishing me in my life? And what habits might I want to change? Yes, that's appropriate. Beautiful. But because this is mindfulness, I'm also just encouraging you to be curious about the seeing of it. It takes no effort at all. And sometimes the in turns into the out. That pivot happens very naturally and very easily. Some of the stuff when we experience quite deeply changes all by itself just by noticing it. Really, just by noticing it. Just the seeing does so much. Yeah. So I think that's as much as we're going to do on that today. I wish we had more time. I always wished we had more time because everything we're playing with is so rich. And there's so much more we could do with the topic of nourishment. But that's as much as we'll do today. And we still have some time left, which is what I was hoping for. So my friend Anton here is helping me by sending along some of the questions. Oh, my friend Tessa is helping me by sending along some of the questions that we're being asked here. Let's see what we got and what might work in. We'll start with we'll work our way backward. We'll start with how can mindfulness change our relationship with food? It's a beautiful question. I used food as my example today and my lovely little apple because it's the thing that we talk about a lot. I'm asked about a lot, especially when we're talking about nourishment. And so the short answer, because I'm going to try to keep it short, is, and I really do believe this, mindfulness changes our relationship with food by paying really deep attention to food. Paying really deep attention to the body that's consuming the food. Paying really deep attention to what the body is actually needing, how it feels before, how it feels after. That's sounding really abstract. It isn't. But what I notice is, ooh, I'm kind of hungry. And then I get to close my eyes and go, am I? Because sometimes hungry is really just me being bored. Sometimes hungry is actually me being sad. Sometimes hungry is me just associating having popcorn with eating a movie, right? Because I've got a habit. And so just by checking in, hey, body, what are you needing down there? Are you needing some fuel? What kind of fuel do you need? What you needing down there? Hey, heart, how you feeling? What are you noticing? Can you see here that mindfulness of emotion and mindfulness of body are very closely linked, right? Because of course emotions are so sensorial, they're so somatic. And so I start to notice pretty quickly, wow, a lot of my eating is emotional eating. A lot of my eating is about being bored. A lot of my eating is something that tastes good in this part of my mouth. Ah, I love it. It's delicious. But then when it gets down to my body, I feel, ugh, right? So how does it help us with our relationship with food? Literally by just paying much closer attention to the heart and to the body that's about to eat. So slowing down, paying attention makes a huge difference. When we slow down, we eat less. Everybody knows that, I think. But I'm just encouraging everybody to just pay really deep attention because I do believe the body knows, and of course the heart does too. So just paying attention in a really curious way. Yeah. What advice would I give somebody who feels like they're bad at mindfulness? Oh, you're not. It's not possible. What that usually means, because this is a very common one, so thank you for your question. What this usually means is we imagine that mindfulness means something. If I am mindful, I am at peace. That is not necessarily true. If I am mindful, I am never in the past and never in the future. Not necessarily true. If I am, I think you kind of get where I'm going, right? Strictly speaking, oh, I see that I wandered into the past. There, that's a moment of mindfulness. Oh, I can see I wandered into the future. Okay. Oh, there's a moment of perfect mindfulness. Oh, I noticed how sad I was. I noticed how sad I was. I noticed my sadness. Mindfulness. Can you feel it? Because mindfulness isn't like this is the good thing, this is the bad thing. Don't feel sad. No, no, no. Mindfulness of emotions is about just accepting and being curious about the ones that are there and noticing the part of us that wanders into the past and wanders into the future. So bad at mindfulness, I would say, oh, notice how you're thinking. Oh, I'm bad at this. It's not true, but I can see that. I've had that thought many, many times. It's okay. Hang in there. Specify the meaning of the term stillness in my training. Silence, immobility, calmness. What a great question. That's pretty rich. So I can't pull at that string too hard. On one level, stillness, silence, being calm are kind of synonyms. They all really mean the same thing. But at a deeper level, they indicate actually different meditative states. And I wouldn't probably go into that in this particular setting. I would go into that setting. I would go into those things at my place. Flying Cloud Zen is where I do most of my teaching, and that kind of distinction would make a little bit more sense there. What I like, though, about your question, and I think it's wonderful, is you're curious enough about the mind states that go with these things, and you're wise enough to go, wait, having a still body doesn't necessarily mean that I am still. And does still mean silent? And does silent mean calm? Because they are sort of synonyms and they are can kind of mean the same thing. But I love that yeah, but also they're quite different when I start to explore them. And there, that curiosity is beautiful. That'll serve you well. That's probably as much as I should say about that. What does a well-nourished life look like to me? I would say a life that is stewarded with lots of careful attention. If it's being lovingly witnessed, that's a nourished life. And I mean those words pretty literally. If it's a lovingly witnessed life, it will be well nourished because I've noticed the parts of me that I'm not caring for, I'm not looking at. And if I am looking at them, I'm not looking at them with any kind of care. I'm using the word love here, but right? If I really fall in love with this body, I have to stop mistreating it. I have to. I mean, love demands that I do. And so that change happens as naturally as the in turns into the out. It's not because I'm going to be better or it's going to mean anything about me, but you understand when we fall in love with something, we just treat it differently. We care about it, right? The only reason I don't conserve water, the reason I treat water mindlessly is because I don't love it. I'm not paying enough attention. I'm not caring. When I start to see it's so precious, it's precious and it nourishes me and it nourishes. Oh my goodness. Of course I turn off the faucet when I'm brushing my teeth. I just naturally do it. Right? So well-nourished is just a life well-witnessed and well-loved. And that's why we're doing this beautiful practice together. Do I think my relationship with food reflects how we treat ourselves in other areas of life? Amen and hallelujah. Yeah, of course it does. That's a great question. I wish we had more time for that. And then finally, and I know we got to go here in just a minute, can changing something small like how we eat breakfast actually start to shift how we approach the rest of the day? I can tell by the way you asked that. These are great questions, all of you. Thank you for these questions. I can tell by the way you asked the question, you already know the answer. Of course it can. Of course it can. Now, so I'll give it back to you as a statement. Changing something small, like how we eat our breakfast, can actually start to shift how we approach the rest of the day. And it's very wisely written because of how you wrote it. Shift can start to shift. So what that means is when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I can do it mindlessly or I can do it mindfully. That's a choice. I can do it at the same speed. I can do it at the same time. I can do it with the same toothbrush and the same toothpaste. But in one scenario, I'm paying deep attention and I know I'm helping to care for myself, to care for this beautiful thing that I just get to inhabit for just a few decades, right? I care for it. Can you feel what I'm cultivating there? An appreciation. So is that naturally going to bleed over into how I hold my car keys and how I drink my tea and how I get my clothes on and whether or not I touch myself with tenderness? Of course. What it isn't is a guarantee that if you brush your teeth mindfully, good stuff's going to happen to you all day and you're going to feel fabulous and your whole life will be fulfilling and nothing bad will, of course, right? We're all grown-ups and we know that's not magical thinking. But I love the way that's written because small, small, small. These little things make huge differences because they plant seeds of awareness. And everybody listening to this knows if I can pay attention to brushing my teeth, I'm doing it anyway. I can also pay attention to washing my face. I'm doing it anyway. I can also pay attention to the apple. I'm going to eat it anyway. And grabbing the car keys and getting dressed and we start going, oh, of course. Of course. It doesn't have to be a special thing added on to my life. Mindfulness practice just starts being my life. Just paid attention to in a much more loving and a much more curious way. Oh, my friends, I wish we had more time, but I'm afraid we're out of time. I thank you for your participation. I thank you for your practice. I very sincerely mean that. I certainly thank you for your questions. I hope to see you next month because next month it's mindfulness of exercise and resistance. Oof. We'll have fun. We'll do jumping jacks or something. I thank you for all your time. Have a beautiful, beautiful month. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.